Good evening and welcome to Season 8, where the platform where we speak truth to power. We are hearing news that President Tinubu has declared a state of emergency over the food scarcity issue. Let's listen.
Emergency on food security, then also that all matters pertaining to food and water availability and affordability as essential livelihood items be included within the purview of the National Security Council. They said the president has also directed an immediate response to this crisis. A number of initiatives that will be deployed, including reversing the inflationary trend and guarantee future uninterrupted supplies of affordable foods to ordinary Nigerians. They went further to say that there shall be medium, long-term and immediate interventions and solutions, some of which include the release of fertilizers and grains to farmers and households to mitigate the effects of the subsidy removal. Also, there must be an urgent synergy between the Ministry of Agriculture, Water Resources to ensure adequate irrigation of farmlands and to guarantee that food is produced all year round. A long list of the plans that the federal government has listed today relating to issues of security. Now, we have tonight to give us perspectives on this matter. Dr. Kabiru Adamu, who is the executive director of Beacon Consulting, a security consultant. Incidentally, today is his birthday. Happy birthday to you and welcome to the program.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
I'm delighted to be here. Well, quite busy, but I'm also glad that I'm able to give my contributions on this very important topic.
Absolutely. Let's get your view on the breaking news, the state of emergency declared by the president. That is perhaps going to be what you call one of the extreme measures that the president is going to be putting in place since he got into office about 46 days or 45 days ago. And this kind of statement or powers of the president being exercised is seen as some extraordinary measures that is captured within the constitution of our land for a president to undertake, and now is undertaking it. A state of emergency on national on food security. What does this mean?
First off, it is a demonstration of the fact that the president is listening to the people. Some of the economic policies that has been introduced by his government has created socio-economic difficulties for the people. Now, interestingly, food security is a critical component of Nigeria's revised National Security Strategy 2019. A lot of people will be wondering why is food security related to security. But if people are hungry, if people cannot afford to feed themselves the basic requirements, then certainly they will be disposed more to committing acts of offenses. So any nation that wants to move forward would have to ensure food security. And I think the realization by this is what led to this declaration. And I'm quite excited with the list of items that have been listed under that. How well the subnationals buy into this and support this action by the federal government would go a long way towards meeting the stated objectives of that. Because at the end of the day, what matters is that the person that lives in those communities, in those villages, is able to afford to feed himself and his family. That reduces the ability of threat elements to recruit from disgruntled pools within our community.
Not only that they are planning to say that they say they want to make sure that there is food security, but also they are hoping to make money. You see what they've said in one of the statements. They said, we will increase revenue from food and agricultural export. It looks to me that whoever is going to be the minister in charge of agriculture and water resources, this government wants to make it a priority. The kind of ministries that have been prioritized in the past in Nigeria, Ministry of Petroleum Resources, the Ministry of Works. But from what they have said today, it does look like these ministries are going to get priorities. For example, they have now said food and water, essential items in the land, is now going to be part of the purview of the National Security Council. What does that mean?
It means that that element of food security is being brought into the forefront of governance. If I understood how, especially the immediate past administration ran, these priority areas would be put, especially under the Ministry of Budget and Planning. so that all the arms of government, remember the president talked about collaboration and coordination. Now, everything the several cabinet ministers will be doing will have to revolve around that. And the ministries of agriculture, as an example, transport, all the other ministries that have responsibility for agriculture and related services will now have to work together towards achieving this particular objective. The last administration had 9 priority areas, one of which included, of course, agriculture and then feeding the people. Now, if this administration decides to carry on along that line, what it means is that governance and our national powers will be geared towards achieving the objectives as stated under this. I think it's a very interesting development. It is a long-term plan, and I'm hoping that under that long-term plan there will be low-hanging fruit that can be achieved. We do have grain reserves as an example. I'm not sure, I haven't seen the whole content. Has there been a directive for those reserves to be relieved and for food to be made available to people? The long-term plans would include securing, for instance, everything that has to do with our requirement for food in the country, so that at least the average Nigerian is able to afford and have access to food.
I mean, there are those who argue, legally speaking, state of emergency is enshrined in the section 305 subsection 1 of the Nigerian Constitution, which gives a president the power to proclaim a state of emergency in any part of the country or in the entire federation. And the power also shows that the president can take intermediary measures or decisions when the country is in a dire need or in a state of war, and as such that could last for almost a year, upon which it needs to be renewed if necessary. It then means that there are extraordinary things that the president could do that he may not naturally do in a usual manner. That means in the area of food security, we might be seeing extraordinary measures. The president saying there shall be a rollout of fertilizers to farmers. There shall be an immediate and urgent intervention in controlling the price of commodities so that the average person can be able to manage it. But today, you heard what the service chiefs have said. They've made so much promises. They will digitize, they will do this, they will do all of that. Are you impressed by their outcome? Because now they will also be sitting in the National Security Council, which means that this committee or this group of persons in the country will now oversee the issue of food security in the country.
Definitely. And where do they come in? They come in because most of our agricultural practices are done in the rural areas, and most of them actually in the northern half of the country. I don't know if you've had a chance to look at our report, the monthly report that we produce. We've shown clearly that over 70% of the security incidents that occur in Nigeria occur in the northern half of the country. So that means the average farmer is unable to go to his farm in places like Katsina, Zamfara,
as the Q2
Sokoto,
report
KB.
on April, May, and June. We will put it up just in a moment. The issues of abductions, violent attacks, and all what have you.
The activities of non-state armed groups. I mean, the Northwest, Northeast, and North Central have that common theme across all of them. There are non-state armed groups that are challenging the supremacy of the use of force by the state and are preventing farmers from going to the farm. In places like Zamfara, this is documented. They have to pay levies and dues to these non-state armed groups before they can access their farm. Now that is even to access the farm. When it comes to harvesting, they also have to pay that levy so that they will be able to access their farm. Now that is where security comes in. How will these areas be made free of these non-state armed groups to allow these communities, these farmers, to have access to their farm? Livestock rearing and pastoralism, that too has been affected. Sometimes we forget the importance of this practice to our economy. Most of the owners of this livestock, frankly, no longer have ownership of those livestock. So that entire sector has been affected. How does security come in to protect them and allow them to continue their agricultural practice? And I think that is the role, that the entire security structure. The last time I was here, we spoke about the security structure. I explained to you how I believe there are 27 of them. Now, again, I'm a little bit worried when I hear the military making such grand promises. It is not something they can do alone. Something they have to do together with the other security agents. And frankly, they can't even occupy the front seat. They have to do this, supporting especially the police that has primary responsibility for internal security. So I'm hoping that as the government continues its formation, remember that this is still early stages, ministers have not been appointed, other leadership of the security the agencies have not been appointed. Once all of these appointments have been made, I'm here hoping to hear a joint statement coming from the coordinators. And last time we discussed the coordinators, Office of the National Security Advisor, Ministers of Interior, Ministers of Defense, Police Affairs, and to an extent, Ministry of Justice, so that these statements come out to reassure these citizens of these locations. And what is important, especially with regards to food security, is the ability of the average farmer in the village to access his farm, to go ahead, farm, and then when it's time for him to harvest his products, to continue that product. Now that has to be a holistic action involving both the federal government and its security agencies, as well as the subnational government, who understand the issues that are affecting their states and are able to provide protection for rural dwellers to allow them to do their livelihood, as it were.
It's dangerous if we're people who do not learn from what happens in the past to learn how we can change the course of the future. From some of the report that Beacon Consulting has put forward from what happened in, and this is part of information and intelligence that also will need for the security agencies, also need to look into the issues of abduction, the fatality, the violent attacks. And you've mentioned these areas that some of these has happened, some of the images that our viewers can see right there on the screen. What can we learn from these? Where should we be more careful? Where is the trend? This is a Q2 report, isn't it? Yeah. Q2 is April, May, and June. Compared to Q1, is there anything that bothers the mind based on the outcome of this report?
The trend is indicating increase in the activities of non-state armed groups. They are primarily responsible for the 800 plus fatalities that we recorded in the month of June.
And we see 130 incidents of abduction in Zamfara alone.
Exactly.
And followed by Niger, followed by Kaduna, FCT, Sokoto, Benue. And the top 6 states are within the northern region of the country.
And I think this is especially for at that strategic level. Having that kind of dashboard, using metrics, allow you to deploy resources in a manner that is justifiable. And then, of course, you're able to see the results better. So this is a tool that should be embraced by our security agencies. The ability to see the country, the 774 local governments, from the prism of data, metrics, that allows you to know where the concentration of threat elements are and then to deploy resources accordingly. These resources are not enough. So if you deploy them without necessarily knowing where the concentration of certain factors are, then unfortunately the results will be what we're going to.
The Northwest and the North Central are now struggling for prominence, sadly, in terms of abductions and fatalities. Those two figures are not anything that one could laugh about, and this perhaps should get the attention and is a direct it's obvious, isn't it? What we saw on Plateau, in Benue, the two governors are sweating already, trying to contend and contain what is happening within their state. Is there anything that could be done immediately? This is a new government, new national security advisor, new service chief, new IG of police. What can they do immediately? Because the lives of people are involved here. And don't forget also, where there is abduction and where there are fatalities, people may not be able to go to farm.
Exactly. And I think this is how our conversation started, the relevance of security to, as it were, food security. Now, each of these developments are different. And I think so the first thing we need to realize is our ability to disaggregate these challenges. What is happening in the Plateau and to an extent what is happening in Benue are slightly different. But the linkage between them is the collapse of our traditional dispute resolution mechanism. I think we need to accept that as a country. It's collapsed.
There's no handshake between the traditional institution and the local government authority.
Exactly. And so gaps have been created. These non-state actors, in the case of the Plateau and Benue, to an extent, these are ethnic militias that have been armed and willingly armed by sometimes resident and sadly sometimes by the political class that have gone haywire, as it were, and they are killing each other. When this issue started specifically in Mangu in Plateau State, it was a small issue that if the traditional justice resolution mechanism was effective, it would have been able to address it. Today, looking back, over 300 persons have been killed as a result of that, and that's not acceptable. So the second element is the criminal justice system that is also failing. It's ineffective. It's not able to arrest offenders and punish those offenders. And then, of course, the third one is our security agencies that sadly have not been able to prevent the movement of these armed ethnic militias. Last one is the small arms and light weapons that are in circulation and are being used by these non-state armed groups to carry out the kind of actions that they are carrying. So unless we take these issues one after the other, some of them are low-hanging fruits that can be immediately actioned. For instance, nothing stops us from bringing these two communities together. They are not ghosts. We know who they are. But the narrative sometimes seems to suggest it's one group attacking the other. No, there are two groups fighting. And bring them together, identify the cause of their grievances, and then attempt to address that grievances. Where it's not possible to address the grievances, then use the criminal justice system. Strengthen it, make sure the offenders are arrested, and then they are prosecuted. Sadly, we're not.
For example, for those who are asking for another style in approaching it, for those who are saying that use a carrot approach, and those who are saying no, carrot approach, we have gone past that level. In Katsina State, it was tried, it failed. In Zamfara, it failed. It fell flat on its face. Kaduna State, you see the likes of Sheikh Gumi and the rest. They've tried as much as possible to bring these elements back into the society. But the former governor of Kaduna State, these elements can no longer be accorded any form of respect. Go into the bushes where they are and clear them out. Can we do that?
I started by mentioning that we need to disaggregate the challenges. I can't sit here and rule out negotiation completely. In certain instances, negotiation is an option. In the case of, let's use Zamfara as an example, there are 4 threat elements that we're dealing with in Zamfara. The first one are the criminals who, for one reason or the other, have taken up weapons and they're doing the kind of heinous activities that we're seeing. Then there is another group that are victims of the consequences of the actions of this first group. They have, because the state is not protecting them, they have sought weapons to protect themselves, and they fall across 2 ethnic groups, the Hausas and the Fulanis. Now, in between that is also another group that sadly has also evolved, who I would call them merchants of criminality, as it were, who are also evolving and using that. And then the third one are those who have taking a handshake across the terrorist groups that are operating in the Northeast. Now, for the first group and the last group, I wouldn't advocate negotiation in any way with them. The state should use the stick approach.
It looks like these guys are thinking that the state is weak. And in fact, what they are brandishing, it looks like, because the situation looks, and I'm not saying that the state is weak, they are testing the resolve of the powers, the military powers of the state. And it does look like whenever these attacks are staged, lives and the blood of average and innocent Nigerians are being spilled on a daily basis. Now, this is perhaps the most difficult time to say you want to be president of Nigeria. But the president, Bola Tinubu, has said, look, I campaigned for it, I begged for it, and I got it. Let me do the job. But now the issue is that he's fighting to stem the economic problems. He's also going to be struggling to make sure that the nation is secure. It's been a bad run in the last 8 years. But if you were in his shoes, for example, with the understanding that you have, and I'll take this as your closing thought, what would you do immediately?
Number one, he has a renewed hope agenda, and there is a 7-point element there. Sadly, he's yet to appoint his minister, so that's a constraint.
You see, he has 60 days. Well, and the anticipation is very much, it's thick. A lot of Nigerians are expecting that he will do that. For someone who says he's going to hit the ground running. So we probably expected, because he went to France, he had meetings, and what we thought was that he had everything all settled.
So number one, appoint those ministers. They're absolutely important. Those cabinet positions, Ministry of Interior, Minister of Defense, Minister of Police Affairs, and then let them be individuals that understand.
We need the Minister of Police Affairs?
My position is that that ministry should have some close relationship with the Ministry of Interior. I can't.
You don't see any duplication there? Minister of Defense, Minister of Police Affairs, Minister of Interior?
There is no duplication, but it limits coordination. if you have a Ministry of Police Affairs and then you have a Ministry of Interior, you have created another platform, as it were, that limits coordination. There has to be a close linkage.
You have the IG of police,
exactly,
you have the chairman
and
of
the police.
PSC.
Exactly. So that ministry, the president needs to look at it closely. If he wants to retain it, then there has to be a closer cooperation and coordination between it and the Ministry of Interior. My suggestion is perhaps appoint a Minister of State and let him be under the Ministry of Interior somehow, so that they're able to work together better. But having said that, since he's not appointed all of that, right, I'll tell him to direct all the current security chiefs that he has out into the field, and then to go and manage this situation. In fact, give them 4 weeks, manage the situation, contain it, and then, of course, the next is to look at the bigger picture in terms of long-term solutions to reduce the challenge.
Dr. Kabiru Adamu, the Executive Director of Beacon Consulting, a security consultant, our friend right here. I'll allow you to go enjoy the rest of your birthday evening.
My family is actually waiting for me. Thank you.
Apologies for dragging you out, but this is a national assignment, and we needed to talk about this. Thank you so much indeed for your time.
My pleasure. Thank you for
appreciate it. Congratulations to you.
Thank you. Yeah.
So we take a break.
So, so there you have it. The president has issued the national security on food. Good move. What do you think? How do you see it? I'm just playing it, I'm just seeing it as I see it. Good move. We just need to know it's it's obviously looking to address concerns, and that's good. It sounds like it's listening to people. We just need to know the steps on the refinery. The refinery would solve this problem. I firmly believe that fixing the refineries right now will solve the problem. If you don't fix the refineries, you're not solving the problem. That is my issue. So it's good it's now made the announcement, but the refineries need to be fixed right now. And that's what I think. But anyway, what are your thoughts? You're watching Citizen AY, the platform where we speak to power. Please subscribe to Citizen AY, hit the notification button, and of course, give us a thumbs up. Help us reach more people. We appreciate you. Please, subscribe, hit the notification button, and of course, give us a thumbs up. Subscribe, hit the notification button, and of course, give us a thumbs up. Thank you for watching. You're watching Citizen AY, the platform where we speak to the power. Back later on. Thank you, and bye for now.